tell us, well, go and ask the Israelis, because if they said no, then that's no, but this is our vision. How can you see the two sides, their vision and your vision, as not contradictory?
The two sides' vision?
The Israeli vision of complete denial and rejection of a Palestinian state, and your vision, the president's vision, of like the only way that you have secure Israel is to have a two-state solution, and hence you have all these countries unilaterally recognizing the state of Palestine.
So, look, I think I said at this podium not too long ago that diplomacy is 1,000 days of failure and 1 day of success. Maybe in the case of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it's even more than 1,000 days, since across multiple administrations, multiple decades. And by the way, this is not just a U.S. issue. Arab states believe in the two-state solution. European states believe in the two-state solution. The world believes in it. So this is not a bilateral issue between the U.S. and Israel. And of course we make our views known, and of course we press on the diplomatic front on this. But at the end of the day, what the United States can do through hard, gumshoe diplomacy, led by the President, the Secretary of State, myself, others, is try to put the pieces in place for a vision of an integrated region, of a secure Israel, of a two-state solution, put all those pieces in place and show that for the long-term strength and vitality of the Jewish democratic state of Israel, this is what's required. Israel's a sovereign nation. It will ultimately have to decide what it does. What we can do as a friend is try to put the pieces in place to drive down that road. That's what the president has done throughout his career. It's what he's done as president, and it's what we'll continue to do. Yeah.
Thanks, Rick. We reported this morning that the Kenyan government has yet to submit paperwork, necessary documentation to the UN Security Council on the MSS with details on the sequencing of a deployment, details on the intended end state of the mission, and rules of engagement as well. Are you confident that Kenya is prepared to answer those questions? And specifically on rules of engagement, what do you want to see of the mission and specifically of Kenyan leadership?
I am confident that Israel, too many countries, that Kenya is prepared to carry out what it has set forth with respect to this multinational security support mission. And it's not just going to be Kenya. It's going to be Kenya leading with a range of other countries, with the United States providing a considerable amount of financial and logistical support and a certain backbone to all of it. Obviously, this is not something that, is a completely straight line. It is a dynamic operating environment, to say the least, in Haiti. And this is going to require an adaptive, flexible approach, but one guided by certain core functions and operations. Kenya has laid that out. It's worked that out in close collaboration with the United States, and it has consulted closely with the UN on this along the way. So with respect to whatever particular report or forms are necessary to file, that's one thing. In terms of whether the substance of the operation is well understood by Kenya, the partners in the United States, I believe it is, and we expect the deployments to unfold in the not too distant future. In terms of rules of engagement, the key thing here is that this multinational security support mission is exactly that, a support mission of the institutions of the Haitian state, not a replacement for it. That is the core proposition behind it, and that's what it's going to carry out. Yeah.
Do you have a reaction to the British Prime Minister calling a general election for July 4th? Were you surprised to see that today?
I confess that I was surprised to see it today because I think it was not an expected announcement, but I don't have any real comment on it because I'll leave it to the UK to deal with their politics, while of course the United States deals with its politics. We have a very strong, maybe that's an understatement, partnership and alliance with the UK, regardless of elections, regardless of prime ministers. So, we wish them luck in the conduct of their election, and we'll be here as the United States standing with the UK through it all.
Is the President going to meet with the Prime Minister at the G7, and does this change anything given that the election will be 2 weeks later?
Honestly, I heard about this 2 hours ago, so I'm not sure exactly what it's going to mean from the point of view of the UK at the G7 summit. What I can tell you is that we didn't have a specific bilateral plan, but of course he's going to sit around that round table with that small group of G7 leaders, and I assume the UK Prime Minister will be there, and they'll be talking about substance, not politics, so that's not going to change anything in terms of the agenda of the summit. Take one more question. Yep.
Okay. I have China-related questions. So Secretary Yellen in Europe encouraged European allies to work with the United States to counter China's overcapacity and the trade practice. What is objective and the action plan for that? And also, China just announced a sanction against former Congressman Mike Gallagher, who just resigned last month, and he had been a critic to the Communist Party, also a supporter of Taiwan. Also today, China announced another sanction against 12 U.S. defense companies and its employees for selling weapons to Taiwan. What is the administration's position on China sanctioning U.S. congressional members, companies, and citizens?
We oppose all of those sanctions, full stop, four square. Simple as that. With respect to the overcapacity issue, we've been very clear, and the president has been clear, as well as Secretary Yellen, Lael Brainerd, and others, and Dalip Singh have all spoken articulately to this challenge being not a challenge that's bilateral between the U.S. and China. It is a global challenge. China's distortive practices, non-market economic practices, subsidizing at dramatic scale industries where they're going to produce so much quantity of good and then flood the global markets with it, threatens to create global imbalances that are not stabilizing. That's why it's not surprising that you've seen countries in Latin America, countries in Europe, countries in Asia, and of course the United States step up and say, we've got to look at this and take countermeasures to this. And I think what the Secretary is hoping to do at the G7, building up to the summit in Italy, is to get a common picture of what the nature of the challenge is, get a common understanding of what the tools to deal with it are, and also a common understanding of how we engage with China in a dialogue on these questions to express our concerns and indicate that we need to take steps to defend ourselves. That's what the intent is. That's what we hope to do. Thank you all very much, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jake.
The last 3 rows send their regards.
Okay, thank you so much, Jake. So I know we don't have too much time because I know the First Lady's office is holding a press event, and we promised their office that we would be done before then, so all of you can have an opportunity to attend that. But Zeke, so we have a couple minutes.
A couple follow-ups on Jake. He said the president intends to visit Africa while he is president. They're less than 8 months until Inauguration Day, so should we expect to visit the president to the African continent between now and January 2025?
And as Jake also said in his answers, that we don't have anything to announce at this time, but the president's, he obviously, while he's president, he would like to keep that commitment and indeed make a visit to Africa. I just don't have anything to announce at this time.
And then on one of your favorite topics, the Hatch Act, the Office of Special Counsel indicated that they would begin working to enforce the Hatch Act on White House employees. Is that something that this White House is supportive of?
So I'll say this: we're reviewing the opinion, obviously that just occurred. I do want to note a couple of things that, as recently as November 2021, the Office of Special Counsel stated that, and I quote, "significant constitutional concerns would be raised by referring White House commissioned officers to the Merit System Protection Board." This is the MSPB for discipline. And for decades, we have to remember this as well, OSC's practice with respect to Hatch Act matters involving White House commissioned officers has been to refer those matters to the president for discipline. That's what's been going on for decades now. So, and that is also what OSC has said was legally required in 2021. So we're not aware of any changes in the law eliminating that requirement, but obviously we're going to review that opinion. Just don't have anything to share at this time. I'm going to leave it to my White House counsel's office colleagues.
We're free to talk about
I
all sorts
wish.
of political matters because
I
the Hatch
wish.
Act is enforceable on you.
I wish. I just don't have anything to share at this time, but obviously we're going to review the opinion. I wish I could. Go ahead.
Has the president spoken to any of the governors in the Midwest who are dealing with a lot of this severe weather? And can you just discuss a bit any of the coordination that's going on between the White House and these states in terms of cleanup and recovery?
So, look, you heard me at the top mention how, how we are, obviously, folks are in our thoughts and how devastating it's been with these extreme weather and what it's led to. And obviously, people have lost their lives. And so it's devastating to hear. The president continues to be kept updated on on what's happening in different states. Obviously, I just talked about Iowa at the top, and he has been. I know he has had conversations with leadership on the ground. I know that obviously the FEMA administrator has been all hands on deck, Deanne Criswell, and talking to folks on the ground as well. I don't have anything to read out on specific calls, but we are here to help, as we have done over the past 3 years when these types of disasters occur, and we'll continue to be here to help in any way that is needed. And so I just don't have anything in detail or specifics to share. But obviously our hearts go out to folks who are recovering and folks who have lost loved ones. It is devastating to see. Peter.
The RNC headquarters is reporting that it received blood vials today, right now. Obviously that's under investigation, but this White House has been very clear in the past about aggressively condemning political violence, intimidation of any kind. Will you do the same given these circumstances?
I will do the same as I have done many times before. As you just stated, the Capitol Police is looking into this, so I would leave it to them to investigate what's going on. It is concerning. We've obviously seen the report, and we are going to do what we've consistently have done from here, is condemn any political violence, threats, or intimidation. That has no place in any community, and certainly in our political discourse. And it is important that we continue to repeat that, that has no place in our politics, no place anywhere. And so we certainly condemn any form of threats.
You opened today's briefing by talking about the latest student loan cancellations for, I think we said, what did we say, in total 4.75 million Americans now. I think it's 160,000. This latest round, Mike Johnson, the Republican House Speaker, today described this as a massive wealth transfer for Americans who did not attend college to those who did. And he described it as a shameful play to buy more votes 6 months before an election.
I will say to the congressional member, Mike Johnson, obviously the speaker, is that what is shameful is that Republicans continue to get in the way of helping us deliver a little bit of breathing room for Americans who deserve that opportunity, you heard me talk about Tiffany, the young woman who one of the things that people should know, and if you don't, is that when folks are receiving these debt relief announcements from the president, they have an opportunity to tell their story. They have an opportunity to say why this matters to them. And we're talking about millions of Americans who now have an opportunity to start a life, have an opportunity to move forward in a way where they can reach that American dream, or reach whatever it is that they wanted to do, not just for themselves, for their families. So we believe, and the president's not going to walk away from doing that. He believes it's an important commitment that he made to Americans. It is a broken system. It is a broken system.
I guess the question, though, is what then is the White House's message to those Americans who did not attend college for a variety of reasons, perhaps, including perhaps that they didn't want to take on all the debt that went with it right now, that they feel like in some form they are responsible for allowing those who did not to pay their fair share?
So look, here's the thing. This is a president who has been very clear about making sure that he's building an economy that leaves no one behind, right? Making sure that
being left behind, the ones who didn't get support because they didn't go to college?
I hear your question, but this is, if you look at what the president has done more holistically over the past 3.5 years, he has tried to build an economy for everyone. This is one part of his economic policy. When you think about creating 15 million jobs, many of those jobs, if you think about the different legislation that he's obviously passed into law, whether it's the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, CHIPS and Science Act, it's creating jobs that are good union-paying jobs, where you don't need a college education, right? Where you can make 6 figures and actually have that opportunity to start your family. He is creating an economy from the bottom up, middle out, making sure that the millionaires, the billionaires and corporations are paying their fair share, right? Not like Republicans in Congress who want to give them a tax giveaway. So he's trying to make sure, this is one part of his economic policy, but as he's thinking forward, as he's looking at all Americans, all communities, he wants to make sure that there is an economy that doesn't leave anybody behind. And as historically, that trickle-down economics does not work, and he does not want to see that. So we have given opportunities, and we want to continue to give opportunities for folks who feel like they need a little bit more help.
And I guess just to put a fine point on it right now, for the 4.7 million Americans who have received this debt relief, The average, as you said at the start of this
Yeah, about
visit, was $35,000 their relief has been for. So I guess why don't those individuals who didn't receive $35,000 in debt cancellation deserve a $35,000 check from other Americans for what other means they would want to use it?
You're talking about
Those
the,
people who didn't go to college, so they're not getting debt relief, the $35,000 that they don't get because they didn't go.
we're talking about folks who are in debt who are literally being crushed because they took, you know, they took
Literally being crushed. Let's be
financially. Okay, is that okay with you? Okay, but I know, but crushed financially, and so they're trying to get their lives back on track, right? They're trying to get into a place because they took a bet on themselves in a different way, right? A bet of themselves in going to college, and some of them it is difficult to do that, right? And they did that financially. It's hurt them, and we want to give them that breathing room. But it's not just folks who have debt because of colleges. We're trying to help people in different communities as well. Folks who don't have to get that college degree and can make six-figure salary. That is one of the things that the president was very proud of when he passed the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, when he signed the CHIPS and Science Act. Those are really important components of what he's trying to do as well. If you think about making sure healthcare is more affordable, getting that prescription drugs, many for diabetes, for cancer, making sure that those costs are lower, insulin. So there are many ways that the president has made sure that Americans have what they need to move forward with their lives, create and build a family where they feel like they're going after their dreams as well. And so, look, you know, we want to make sure that, again, the student loan piece is one part of the president's economic policy, and the president's not going to step away from it. He's not going to back down because he believes it's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Great. I know, we have to wrap up. Go ahead, Michael.
Thanks, Karine. I'm not sure, forgive me if you addressed this already, but the 5 Americans who are being held in Turks and Caicos on charges related to allegedly bringing shell casings in their luggage. They're facing 12 years in prison. Do you have a comment, and do you have a message for the?
I want to be super mindful. That's an ongoing case here, so I don't want to comment from here. So I don't have anything to add beyond what's being reported out there. Go ahead, Jared.
On the border vote that's expected in the Senate tomorrow, I guess 2 questions related to that. One, can you kind of explain the timing of how this came together? I mean, are there developments that you are more optimistic this will be more successful than it was last time? And if it is not, does the president intend to try and re-engage Republicans and Democrats to come up with a new agreement before November's election?
Look, it's up to Republicans in Congress if this is going to be successful or not. As I stated, it took several months to come to this bipartisan agreement, obviously coming out of the Senate. We have said over and over again, we believe if the president has an opportunity to sign this into law, it will be the toughest and the fairest legislation to deal with a broken immigration system that's been broken for decades. And we have not seen a legislation like this in some time. And so we believe it's important to move that forward. On day one, the president put forth a comprehensive immigration legislation. Nothing happened for 3.5 years. And so we got to work, and at the beginning of this year, we were able to make something happen. And we wanted to see moving. We wanted to see happening. Majority of Americans care about this issue. They care about what's going on at the border. They care about fixing immigration, and they have to do their jobs, right? This is an opportunity for legislators, for Congress to do something that Americans care about. So we're going to let that process play out. The vote happens tomorrow. We've been very clear. We could not be more clear on how we want this to be moved forward. We could not be more clearer how important it was to us that the president and his team worked on this for months.
But does the president want to see a new deal? If this doesn't...
There's a deal right there.
But if it fails and it doesn't move forward...
Look, I'm not going to get ahead. I'm not going to speculate on what's going to happen tomorrow. But there is literally a bipartisan deal that was worked on for months that can start dealing with this issue. There is. And why do we need a new deal when there's one right there that they negotiated on? With our help, obviously, we were part of that, but there's a deal that could deal with a broken immigration system and the challenges at the border. They should move forward on it.
Is he considering Executive order on the board.
Just wanted to follow up on the student loan debt forgiveness.
Yeah.
In the announcement, the Undersecretary of Education said, "We congratulate those borrowers on their due forgiveness." I'm just wondering why people who take out a loan to go to school, then go to school, why are they due forgiveness?
Everybody has a different story as to why they need student loans. Everybody has a different reasoning as to why they want to go to college. I cannot speak for everyone.
Why is forgiveness due to them?
What we have been very clear about is the system, the student loan system needs to be fixed. The president is trying to do that and fix it in a way where people are not feeling that crushing financial burden that they deal with when they leave college. And that is something that they shouldn't have to. They should be given a little bit of breathing room. That is something that, by the way, that's something that majority of Americans agree on, to be given a little bit of breathing room so that they could.
More than half disagree
Well,
with
that's
using
one
tax
poll.
dollars.
That's one poll.
But
That's one
a
poll.
follow-up question, if you
Yeah,
will.
sure.
Does the administration think that student loan debt cancellation contributes to inflation?
What we believe is student debt cancellation gives an opportunity for Americans to start a life, to buy a house, to start a family. That adds to the economy. That is also important to the economy. And it gives, again, a little bit of breathing room so that they can actually take action and do things that they've wanted to do, whether it's going after a dream, whether, again, it's starting a family, whether it's buying a house. That matters. That matters to many, many Americans. Okay, Jackie.
Thank you, Karine. On the border bill, Schumer isn't even allowing amendments, and this exact text failed before. So how can this be seen as anything other than a cynical attempt to try to show Americans that Democrats care about the border?
I mean, I don't know how cynical, I don't understand how that would be cynical when it sounds like Senator Schumer is trying to do his job and move forward a piece of legislation that had bipartisan support, that was negotiated in a bipartisan way that majority of Americans care about. He's trying to move that forward on behalf of not just, obviously not just of what the negotiators wanted to get done in that bipartisan way, but also this is something that the American people want to see. They want Congress to take action on this particular issue. I'm not sure why that would be cynical.
Well, because this exact text failed, and he's not allowing for any changes.
Look, I'm going to let Senator Schumer do the work and move that forward. It is his decision to make that decision. We support it, obviously. We've been very clear about supporting that, about wanting to see that negotiation, that plan move forward. We want to see that happen. We want to see that happen. Now it's up to Republicans to decide if they want to deal with this issue that matters, again, to majority of Americans.
You opened the briefing by saying it's up to Republicans to do something to solve the problem or continue to use it as a political issue. The president has the authority to do something about this unilaterally. Congress is in a divided government right now. Why isn't he doing anything?
Well, why should he have to do it unilaterally? Why should we do it in a legislative way? And let's not forget that negotiated.
Undo some of.
Wait, so you're right. He took many executive actions before, but in order to deal with what's happening at the border, in order to deal with a broken immigration system, you need law, you need legislation, you need it to happen in a bipartisan way, and it was negotiated. There was an agreement in the Senate. Republicans and Democrats came together. You just said it's divided, to be more clear. And they came and they did that. And so that matters. We've been able, during this past 3.5 years, to move forward in a bipartisan way on many legislation. So this one is important. Why can't we do that here?
Well, just because in the framework through which it's coming up again, not allowing for any changes, no indication this vote's going to be any different. And it looks like, if anything, bringing up this vote again and setting it up to fail again is really just an indication that Democrats know that they're vulnerable on this issue.
So here's what I'll say, is that I'm going to leave it to Senator Schumer, I'm going to leave it to Senate leadership to speak to the votes, to speak to the process and how they're going to move forward. That is literally something for them to talk about. What I will say is it is long past time to get this done, to get this moving. We were able to get a bipartisan negotiation, a plan forward on an issue that many Americans care about, on an issue that matters for our immigration system, for what's happening at the border, and that's a good thing. And so Senator Schumer, and we support this, wants to move this forward. We want to see this move forward as well. The senator is very good at this. He's very good at dealing with big legislation, obviously, as we've been able to move important legislation through over the past 3.5 years. So I'm going to let him speak to that.
One last minute,
Sure.
a different topic
I
on
really
the
have to go.
ICC. You said that the administration's working with Congress in a bipartisan way on this ICC arrest warrant issue. Is the administration willing to implement any visa bans or place sanctions on
So,
ICC officials?
I'll say this, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan literally was just asked a question about this. I don't have anything else to add. We are in conversations on the Hill. He said this in a bicameral way, in a bipartisan way. Don't have anything to announce. We've been very clear on where we stand on ICC. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.